What's your status on the apparatus? Puncho and DK cancel kings. And today, guys, we're going to be talking about, has the military been compromised by an alternative agenda? We can't even say certain words on YouTube these days. It's getting so crazy.
Yes, sir.
Got an echo there, DK. In addition to that, we're going to talk about some other things in the regarding the military and some policies with Donald Trump. We got a lot of military veterans on the panel here, and we're going to go through and introduce them real briefly. But beforehand, DK, you want to go ahead and sail us in?
Yeah. Am I good now?
Sure.
All right, Lord, we just thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for your grace and your mercy, Lord, as you continue to cover us and keep us, Lord. Guide us in our conversation today, Lord. Lord, we just want to say that we love you, we trust you, and we thank you for everything you have done. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen, amen. Guys, welcome to Overtime. So welcome to the panel. We got DK, the Watchman. We got Junior. We got Julio and DJ 4P. Welcome, guys. Welcome. Y'all gotta pardon me. I'm still getting over this crazy cold. But there's been a lot of stuff in the news and the press lately about some of the agendas that are coming down from the executive side, specifically the White House and President Trump really wanting to do a revamp of the military. He has made up his mind that he's going to destroy everything related to DEI. He's going to take it back to what he was doing previously during his administration and making it not possible for people who are transgender to serve in the military, which was his policy from what I remember in 2016 also. And guys, this isn't this isn't going to be a Fox News broadcast or a CNN, or this is not anything formal. You know, we are all combat brothers in arms. You know, if I can get a cigar blazed up over here and a little bit of Hennessy Masters blender, you know, I know DJ 4P, I think he prefers a Golden Schlager. I'm not sure. But just chill out. You know, this ain't nobody going to get written up on their performance report. So we're all, you know, friends in arms here. But anybody want to add something or get a few rounds off before we jump into the topic?
Nothing here.
DK, you still muted, bro.
No, I'm good, man. I just I think this is an important topic, though. You know what I mean? I think you know, for me, you know, in the military, it really didn't affect me because when I was in, we didn't have this issue. You know, if you said that you were transgender, which wasn't even a word then, I don't think, or you said that you were homosexual, you were probably out the military. You know, and those were ways that people were using who wanted to get out. You know, and now it just seemed like it changed a lot. So I know a lot of you guys were affected. You know, I got out a little bit earlier than you guys, so I really wasn't affected by this. So I'm just looking forward to seeing, you know, how it affected you guys, if it did at all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Still got that echo from somebody. Make sure you guys please up your mics. I'm going to play a really quick video that kind of talks a little bit about this topic, and it kind of captures both sides. You know, I try to be as fair as possible. So let's go ahead and take a quick listen to this particular segment from CNN with Representative Crenshaw of Texas.
You are not meeting our medical standards.
Right, but that's your opinion.
You're correct.
Let's bring it back to the beginning.
Standards. I mean, aren't you arguing that those people that if someone who is trans is in the military and they can meet the standards, that they should be able to serve? I don't know that. Why would you be making that decision and not a medical professional or someone who makes those decisions about vision or whatever issues they evaluate before deploying somebody?
I'm saying by definition, if you have transitioned into a different gender, you are not meeting our medical standards.
Right, but that's your opinion.
You're creating. No, it's not an opinion. That is a pretty easy. That's an easy to prove fact. It makes it much harder on our units to deploy. Period. Like full stop.
But then how are there trans people serving in the military right now, sir?
There's a difference between identifying, like again, look, you could, Caitlin, you could show up to, you know, to your job the next day and say that your name is now, you know, Ken. That's different. You can identify that way. And that was Trump's old policy, by the way. They would allow you to serve that way. But there's a very big difference between doing that and actually undergoing medical procedures that take you out of service. And yeah, you call it medical leave, but that's some pretty.
So we're gonna pause it right there. But I want to throw this question to the panel real quick. First and foremost, has anybody ever served or had a subordinate or maybe even a superior that was transgender?
I have.
Okay. What was your experience with that, Junior? I'm gonna call you JR, man. You ain't nobody's Junior.
Yeah, you get it. But my experience that I was the acting shirt, and we had a urinalysis.
Now hold on. Now, don't nobody know what you're talking about. Shirt.
I was acting first sergeant.
What is a first sergeant? Break it down to civilian terms.
First sergeant take care of all the people.
All right.
That's so. We had a drug problem in our squadron, so the commander wanted me to do a no-notice urinalysis. I went through all my books, and I made sure that this transgender person was on leave, wasn't going to be there. I technically did it that day because they need special accommodations when they take a urinalysis. This person decided to come back from leave early. When she got to the place, if me and the lady hadn't been, the lady that does the urinalysis, and me and her hadn't been okay and cool, I could have got fired and actually kicked out of the military. So I didn't follow the proper procedures.
Explain that to me.
When they go, because it's identified as a guy.
So was a person a biological male or female? I'm assuming the person was born a biological male.
Biological female.
That was transitioning to become a man.
Transition to become a man.
Okay.
They can't go in with they look like a man, but they can't go in with a man because they got female body parts. So special provision has to be made for them. And since special provision wasn't made for them at the beginning, because they wasn't supposed to be there, it was my fault as the first sergeant. But she looked out for me, and I still kept my job, and I didn't get in trouble.
Anybody else got thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I used to be the D&I guy for a NAF. And
you got to break it down, bro.
Yes, sir. So basically, we were charged with cultivating cultures in organizations that in line with our mission goals and looking at strategic alignment to make sure that every voice is heard, diversity of thought and innovation is spurred. So
you made sure that there was a diverse voice in your military organization.
Right. And we tried. What I tried to do is not overtly stick to like the power three, race, gender, or sexual orientation. I was trying to also look at things that, I wear glasses. If you wear glasses, you have a harder time getting into the executive ranks in corporate America. So things like that kind of put people at ease and we don't hit those hot button topics. So in that role, we had a civilian who was a gender born at birth was male. She was a officer in the military and then was a civil servant in the military and transitioned when she was a civil servant. Now
transitioned from male to female when she went back to civil service.
From male to female, right? So through this journey, she explained to me, some of the, how she would feel in a meeting room, how she felt, because she had these feelings that she was always a woman, but she lived the life as a white male, straight male as an officer. And one of the things that I remember, I never forget, she told me, she said, one of the biggest transitions was I was used to coming into a room as a white, straight male officer. And when I said something, people listened. There was a sense of, and this was her words, I lost my white privilege when I transitioned to a female, because no longer did I get that benefit of the doubt. No longer did when I talk, people listen. Now, not only am I treated as a woman, but I'm treated as a transgender woman, still working with the Department of Defense. So it created a perspective for me that I wasn't prepared for, because I really haven't dealt with transgender people that intimately.
When you went through your training, was any of this stuff a part of your training, dealing with transgenderism and all the things that go with that?
Not really, because at the time we were building the plane while we were flying it. So we didn't really
Where,
have any
where
of
did the
those.
initiative come from to build the plane to begin with? What year was this?
So this was 2021.
Okay.
Going into 22. So this was very new to us. We were just creating policy to allow airmen to change their gender on their CAT card. We were just creating policy to go into our HR systems and figuring how to do that, because we didn't have that mechanism built in, because we never had that issue come up. So it really was eye opening. I don't understand it, but it's because I'm not a transgender. You know, I am a heterosexual male. So I don't understand it, but to hear her talk and explain her journey and talk about how she would get out of work, go to her truck and put on some lip balm or some gloss just to make her calm down, because all day she feels like she's an imposter. Really kind of opened my eyes. Says, okay, there's, as a Christian, I got to have a heart of grace, a heart of understanding, just like Jesus did with us. So it, again, not something that I really understood, because I can't. I'm not in that position, but I got a heart. I've got experiences and perspective that you could understand what she's saying, but you can't really put yourself in her shoes. So
But she
again, very
was,
kind.
but this particular individual was upset that they lost their privilege by transitioning from a male to female.
It was one of the things that she definitely noticed. It was the most jarring thing that she noticed, transitioning from male to female, was that privilege that she
But I got a
enjoyed.
question for you though, Julio.
Okay.
And everybody in the audience, close your ears. How much of a woman did this transgender person actually look like?
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Her out.
What's that? What kind of woman was it?
She did grow her hair out, so she had long hair. She started doing some hormone stuff. She kept parts, and she dressed like a woman all day.
Did she look like a man?
Yeah. Like if you looked at her, you would do a double take. You get what I'm saying? Like
hold on, Julio, my fault. I'm gonna just be a little confused. So she was born. What was she, or what was the person born?
a male.
So the person was born a male.
Yeah.
I was like, because you keep referring to her as she, but you're saying she because that's what she has. That's what.
Right.
That's what
she wanted to be identified. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. No, I was kind of confused. Okay, I got it. Hey, the question: Are you still in the military now?
No, I'm retired.
They'd kill him if he talked like this right now.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank y'all for your service.
Thank you for your support.
Yeah.
So
DK, still my line. That's still my line. That was my line. But go ahead.
But DK, when you hear that, you have a man identifying as a woman going through medical treatment and to transition, feels like they're trapped in the wrong body, and also not physically and aesthetically looking like a female. Where does that put you? What mindset does that put you into about this whole transgender issue in the military?
Puts me in. I'm just confused. I'm confused about the whole situation to begin with. You know what I mean? So that's the first thing. Number two, like for me, I think one of the biggest things like I took away from the video was, the medical leave that you have to take. You know what I mean, to do some of these procedures and how that can affect the readiness of the unit. You know what I mean? If you're, I feel like I was an important part of my unit. My unit needed to move, and I was getting, a sex change at that time, and I couldn't move. It could affect the readiness of my unit to go somewhere. You know what I mean? So it's one thing, if you get hurt or this, but when you're taking a elective surgery or elective issue to do something, that's really not fair to the unit.
Hold on, DK. Now, DJ 4P, when you hear this, Isn't this the same thing as getting, your wisdom teeth taken out, or,
No, they're not. I said it. That's, to me, that feels like that's an elective thing. Like, that's something that you don't have to do.
Well,
That might
so is the
something.
wisdom teeth, right? So isn't it the same
Gotta,
thing, DJ
gotta,
4P?
not included to the military. No, the wisdom tooth. If they say you need to get it out, you got to take it out. I went through that, and I didn't need it out, but they said I had to take it out. It wasn't elective. It was an order.
It was torture, according to what you told me.
Oh yeah, I didn't go do it. I just obeyed the order. So,
so when you hear that, DJ 4P, do you feel like that has an impact on readiness? Something that's an elective surgery that could possibly take somebody out of the pipeline for doing their main mission in the especially the Air Force, the Air Expeditionary Force. You got to be ready to go battle in a foreign nation. Thoughts?
So I lean towards what Julio said, in the sense that, there's a lot of things that it's not for me to judge or dictate from a subjective standpoint, because I'm not.
Hey, this guy works for public affairs, man.
I'm not into that. I'm not into that community. I'm not, dealing with the struggles or the fight that community's dealing with. However, on the flip side of that, there are a lot of challenges that come with dealing with, like he explained, there's a lot of, like Junior explained, there's a lot of challenges that come with dealing with, having to accommodate for certain things. And in this case, I would say it's something that people are not looking at in the grand scheme of things, where it's what's going on in that person's mental, that's causing them to have whatever it is feelings, thoughts, chemistry that make them say, I feel like I'm in the wrong body. What's going to happen if that person gets out into the field and start having some issues here? That's what I would be more concerned with.
Well, and this is a hot topic here, and we're going to get to you also, JR, because it sounds like you've had some extensive experience supervising individuals with these challenges that may have affected readiness. But matter of fact, let's just go ahead and straight to your opinion on that, JR. Do you think that this affects readiness?
It affects readiness a lot, because not only does, like 4P said, their mentals, when they get on the battlefield, they might be all over the place. But
what do you mean they might be? Either they are, they aren't.
They're going to be all over the place.
Prove it.
I can't prove it, but they're going to be all over. If they're all over the place in garrison, they're going to definitely go all over the place in the field.
So you're telling me just because this guy felt like he needed to go to the car and put on some lip gloss, and he was he didn't feel like he was in the right body, that gender dysphoria could potentially seep into his ability to be effective in the battlefield?
Yes. Yes. And not just that part. They have to have different room accommodations. See,
that's the thing that gets me. And we know how we are about our rooms and our accommodations. And now I've worked with people who nobody really came out and said they were homosexual. Maybe one guy. I think I may have been in Afghanistan at the time. I mean, this dude, he had the tailored ABU, BDU uniform. It was like painted on the guy, and eyebrows were done. And one of my troops, he was Army. He was, I think he was either bisexual or gay. And it is a bit of a distraction because you want to be able to connect with people on a very, a brotherly and a brother in arms kind of way. But there's always going to be that barrier whenever someone sees you as a part of the food chain. Whenever you're dealing with, men that are homosexual, they see you as, in some cases, a part of the food chain. And that makes it a little bit uncomfortable. And you don't want to have those issues because you're already dealing with what part of the country or what part of the world are they from? Because we have people from different countries that serve in the U.S. military. What language barriers do I have? Basic training does a great job of flattening out all that stuff. But one thing I can never really understand with this particular movement, with the homosexuality movement and the transgender movement, it raises those things above the common cause that we had to learn about and get over in basic training, and it created another layer that's somehow different or better than that. You guys get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I guess I would push back respectfully that if the blanket statement of it's they're going to while out or do something, I would almost ask, can that be quantified? We're the military. We deal with facts, we deal with logic, and we deal with getting the mission done, right? So if the pillars, the foundation of the Air Force is built on integrity, service, and excellence, integrity being the first one, then we shouldn't have any issues. What we're talking about is people issues. Because if you go into the service, raise your right hand and say, I'm gonna do all these things and I'm gonna have integrity while doing it, then it shouldn't matter if a female's on the combat in combat with you, a gay man is in combat with you, or a transgender person, because what's the number one goal is getting the mission done. Are they fit to fight? Are they able to do the job? And if they are, then according to our doctrine as a military and as the Air Force, the integrity should be there to parse all that out. Now, the reality is we're humans. I'm the same way. We're human beings. If we are on the battlefield and we see a female who is born female but is presenting as male, there's going to be naturally, like I'm a guy, I naturally am going to feel more like I got to help that person more. And I don't need to be having that fog in when I'm at war. I don't need to have that fog, that confusion. So I understand the operations, the readiness when you're in the battle. But we've got to also add to that conversation that is a people thing, not an Air Force thing, because the Air Force has made it very clear you should have integrity at all times. And integrity, service, and excellence means those things shouldn't matter to you if the order is go take that hill. So I just, when we talk about transgender or LGBT, um, when the response is this will happen, I would ask that be quantified. Could we ask that for everything else? And as a force that could put an F-35 that weighs all that it weighs in the air, if we could figure that out, we are equipped and innovative enough to figure these other things out.
Can I kick in there on that real quick?
Sure thing.
Page, real quick, just to his point. So the quantification of that, I would not want to be the person, man, woman, doesn't matter, find out that there's something wrong with my, troop or somebody I'm serving with on the battlefield. That's not the place to find out, hey, there's something wrong with this. And the reason why I bring that up is because when you say quantification, if you're a female, for instance, and we're trying to decide whether or not this female can meet the standards to go, say, to some battlefield, to the front line, whatever, you have different metrics that you can use to decide whether they can physically meet that standard, whether they can mentally meet that standard. My issue with when it comes to transgender people in general, it's not to say that they can't do or whatever the case may be, but if you are already in a situation where you say, I feel like a such and such in a different body, that means it's already something wrong here. And people don't want to admit that because they want to be inclusive, which is fine. But we already know now, before you even go to the field, there's something wrong here. You were born in a situation abnormal, and that's not to disrespect or anything towards anybody. It is what it is. You were born abnormal, and something is not wired right here. So that right there in garrison should be something to deal with before you even get the okay to go deploy or to go into the field.
Well, I think that even when you look at
real quick, to a Julio's point, right? And Julio, I'm kind of on the other side than what you're saying. But when you were talking though, it started having me thinking about Hacksaw Ridge, right? And I was thinking about our man and how he wouldn't take up a gun. I know it's based on a true story. I don't know how true the movie is, but I know it's based on a true story. But how a lot of people didn't want, or his unit didn't want him, in with them because they felt like, hey,
he was a conscientious objector.
No, he wasn't a conscientious objector. He just didn't want to shoot a gun. He really wasn't that's what they labeled him as, but that really wasn't what he was. They just said that because he didn't want to pick up a gun because he didn't want to kill anybody. He just wanted to be there to help save lives. So, but what I'm saying is, so at first, they looked at him like, hey, he can't really help us in the mission because he's scared to pick up a gun. It wasn't that he was scared. He's just that was against what he wanted to do. He was objection of killing people. He wanted to save people, but he still wanted to serve his country. So in return, I mean, if you look at especially how the movie portrayed it, and I think even in real life, I know he got a lot of medals, but you see that he really he put forth the effort that needed to be done. And like for me, like if a person is able to do that, is able to go and affect it in a great way, and that's why I agree with Julio. We just can't say, hey, just because someone is transgender, that they're not going to be able to affect the mission in a great way. Then we shouldn't count them out. And to the JR's point, it's just like that. I mean, I think it has to be something. I don't know. Like I said, I never had to deal with this when I was in the military, at least not on this thing. But what I'm saying, it has to be somewhere in the middle where we got to like, hey, okay, we got to make sure that these people are ready. Like, you know what I mean? Like for me, when I was in the military, I just wanted to make sure that my unit is ready to go. Whether if you were gay, because even I know some people in the military was gay or, homosexual or whatever. I know some of them were, but guess what? But they were still ready to go to war. And they put the Air Force or put the military above whatever their personal things is.
And I think that's it.
And that's what I think it needs to be. If you're in the Air Force, Army, Navy, whatever, that has to be first. I'm not saying besides God and your family, but as far as between your personal life and the military, is that if you're saying that you're serving our country, that has to be first. You know what I mean?
And I think that's where the rub is. We have a saying, service before self. And if a person is going through a transition process, if they're taking hormones, according to the government, the new government's in power, they're incapable of being ready for combat. The objective of the military isn't to be a experiment for sexual exploration. It's to kill people and break things. That being the case, the idea is you can't be transgender, you can't be actively going through these procedures and still be an effective fighting force. You can't do both at the same time. And it's kind of like they've kicked people out for much smaller reasons. You got something wrong with an ingrown toenail. You can't deploy. They will get rid of you. Sometimes if you can't pass a PT test and a physical fitness test enough times, your days are numbered in the military. Now imagine somebody who's going through a physical change, taking hormones, and we know that affects a person psychologically, not to mention physically. So it's like, I can see the policy from that perspective. Nothing would make me more frustrated, especially being a man that has a child. A lot of the guys on the panel have wives and children. Imagine your peer, your counterpart that you work with, your unit is up for their rotation and it's their turn to go, but they can't go because they're on regimen 2 of a sex change operation or a sexual, repressive drug, and you got to go.
Yeah,
that's the problem that I got. That reduces readiness, and those people, I don't care. Like I said, if the person has an ingrown toenail or they're trying to change their name from Adam to Amanda, they're a drag on the unit. That's just how it is. Am I wrong in that, JR?
No, you're definitely not wrong. That happened to me also. My early time in the Air Force, I got a 3-day notice that I was going to do a combat convoys. 3-day notice because somebody had a back problem. They didn't want to go.
Now, in our small military minds, we can understand. Okay, the guy, he was at the bar. Maybe he fell down, bust his back. Okay, I gotta go. The dude had a problem and something happened. But for me to hear that this person's going through a sex change and I gotta go deploy, I'm telling you,
that'd be hard to swallow.
You telling me? And I gotta go for 6 months, sucking sand?
Well, let's be. I think the context of the conversation also has we've got to add that we're talking about a small percentage. Now there are some numbers that say the transgender community in the military outpaces the transgender community in the civilian world. But we're still talking 5-6%.
They're coming to the military to get sex changes.
Well, yeah. And so I think the
That's
other
not what
part
the military is for, bro.
Absolutely. So that's why I think when we have this transgender conversation, there's a lot of people who support LGBT who think the only way to do this is to give me everything I want and I don't have to compromise. And I'm not one of those people. I think there are some if this is the policy you want, we can't as a military be the ones on the hook for a lot of these things because our mission is to fly, fight, and win. And when a woman gets pregnant, she's taken out of the battlefield. You know, a guy, when I got my wisdom teeth pulled out, I couldn't deploy. So things like that happen where we make adjustments for that. But I'm not a fan of if you're transgender, you can if you're a male or you're a female, you don't have to do, and you want to transition to a male, you don't have to meet male standards. You
Come on,
get
man.
special
You know
so
how
that's the
frustrating that is, Julio, to
I
see
a
to
hundred
see
percent
a
agree.
woman trying to become a man, but because in the military, in case people don't know, the women don't have to do as many push-ups. They don't have to do as many sit-ups as the men. They don't have to run as far as the men. But we're still all competing for the same promotions, the same positions. So we give a natural accommodation to women and we elevate them to a man's level, even though they're not able to compete with us physically in a physical domain.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So then you flip that, and now we're saying a woman wants to be a man. She can't do the push-up. She can't do this. What are we talking about? It's very confusing to me. And I don't understand how this makes us more lethal. I don't understand how this makes us, as you said before, Julio, how does this make us fly, fight, and win?
Well, I also think we're transitioning from I think the Iraqi freedom, enduring freedom. These are the last times we're going to see asymmetric warfare, kinetic warfare, meaning bombs, tanks, airplanes, and guns. What we're looking at right now, we know that China, our near peer competition, is bolstering their cyber capabilities. So I really do believe the next war is going to be fought online. And so when we're looking for that talent, you already seen it in the Air Force with bringing back warrant officers. Who are the only AFSCs that have warrant officers? Cyber. Why? Because we can't afford to lose qualified, smart, intelligent cyber operators. And the reality is that we're making a lot of accommodations for that. Some that
Yeah.
hands in the pocket, cell phone while you're walking, things
Tattoos
like
on the
that.
neck.
All tattoos, all that is because we're saying if we keep what the way we were doing business before, we're not going to attract the best talent and we're not going to retain them. Now, whether we agree with that or not, I'm a more old school guy. I like uniforms. I like them to look good on you. I like you to pass your PT test. But the reality, again, we've got to have this conversation in the context of reality that a lot of people who do cyber, they might not be the most physically fit people, and
Well,
and we're
then we need to stop calling it the military. There has to be a minimum barrier of entry. Maybe we should just hire those guys out as contractors. You got the guy from the Simpsons, the fan guy who's always eating the Cheetos and with the keyboard. Maybe he needs to be a contractor. Maybe we shouldn't call him an E4 or an SW3 or whatever they call the warrant officers these days. Maybe we should keep the standards high because I don't think that we're going to get better. And I was having a conversation with a friend the other day. By lowering the standards, we're not going to make ourselves any better. We have to keep some kind of semblance of order in our society, or else, we're going to have, the crazy people running the insane asylum. And this is a bit of a rough segue, but we got another video here that kind of looks into the day in the life of someone who is going through a transition while in the military.
Not a day goes by that I'm not grateful to be serving at this period of time. Being able to undergo a full gender transition beyond hormones, laser hair removal, Botox, lip injections, hair lowering, like literally.
This I don't know if this is a male transition to female or female. I'm not going to lie and say I know what's going on here. This person is talking about Botox, injections, getting a new hairline. How do I get a new hairline in the Air Force?
They
cannot be more thankful to be alive now.
Let's look at some of the comments associated with this video. This is just a little strange to me, guys. Comment here says, how did so many of these people end up in the Mayan? I don't know what that means. Our nation needs to do something with the raging mental illness epidemic. There's a reason for Section 8 discharges. Good examples for utilizing it here. I think she got Section 8. I don't think that's a military term. They just peed somebody. They're mad because they won't be able to get free hormones anymore. And this level of mental illness interferes with every aspect of their jobs. They have wholly given themselves over to demonic entities that will drive them and center their whole lives around their agenda, not God and not this country. She wouldn't fire and brimstone on them. The forcing of DEI was a political stunt and smear on the military. When was the military an equal rights opportunity employer? Never. When you guys see that, what are you thinking? Let's throw it to JR and then DJ 4P, and we'll jump in as needed from there.
That was a male transition to be a female.
How do you know? You know that person?
No, you can tell. You can definitely tell.
Maybe I don't know.
But my whole thing is the readiness aspect of it. And the military was never, like you said, never equal opportunity employer. If you want to be something that the military is not, don't join the military.
That and we got to give you something for that.
Because me being in the career field I was in, we all came in to do one thing: blow up stuff and kill people. That's it. I didn't come in to look cute. I didn't come
in your hairline fixed.
Oh, what you say, okay? What you come in the military to do?
To blow up stuff and kill people.
Now give me 2 claps and a Ric Flair.
I didn't come in to look cute. I didn't come in and turn my hair red. I didn't come in here to wear tight BDUs.
Or to see how far you can get your ponytail past regulations, right?
Yeah, I didn't come in for none of that. I came in to do the job that I protect against enemies, foreign and domestic. That was my job. But people are coming in now because they want to. They can't get a job on the outside world, so they want to come in here. They want to turn their hair different colors. They want to switch and wear tight jeans. Tight BDUs.
Now that's not happening. People aren't wearing tight BDUs.
Yes, they are.
They are.
Yes, they are. And on top of that, just like you said, be a contractor and stay out of my truck. If that's you, stay out of my truck.
What do you think, Julio?
I think it's imperative if we're going to be a military, we have to have OPCOM and ADCOM over the people that serve.
Operational control
and admin control. Yeah,
he just got out. He got out like 2 hours ago.
So I do think we have to have. But I agree. We shouldn't be lowering standards. And again, if we're going to have this conversation about LGBT, and I was a D&I guy. The problem I had with it is there was no compromise. It felt like there was no compromise on the LGBTQ side because their stance was we've been discriminated for so long. We just want all these rights, but we don't want to compromise on any of them. We want.
Oh no, you mean the black people said that?
Well, yeah, they're both times. I'm saying LGBT, like for instance. If you're transgender, right? Like we're talking about here, transgender say, I want to serve, cool. You got to meet the standards. And I don't think we should be having to pay for your surgeries. Though, again, our elective, we don't pay for breast augmentation. We don't pay for Botox. We don't pay for hair plugs. I would have loved
that. They pay for his.
Apparently.
Right. So that's the problem. That's where I kind of draw the line in the sand. Like when we hire you to be in the military, we're hiring you to meet the mission requirements, right? We're not hiring you to come in and use us as a way to transition and further your own personal goals. Because I bet you do this. You say, okay, you want a transgender in the military? You want us to pay for it? Cool. You owe me 10 years. I bet you shut a lot of that down. I bet you, because I think there were some numbers that show people who separated after transitioning or having the military pay for some of that, and the retention numbers aren't as good as people, aren't as good as the reg.
Julio, I saw some numbers on that. That was very interesting. The vast majority of people, like a ridiculous amount of folks who went through transition surgeries and different medications, they got out of the military.
Yep.
It almost seemed as if they got into the military just to get a sex change.
And that's that compromise. I'm saying, if you want to do that, I don't think we should be on the hook for it. We'll support you as far as giving you a place to serve with dignity and respect. But you got to meet the standard. You got to be ready to go when your number is called. And if you want to do this, that's fine. We're going to treat you with dignity and respect as long as you meet the standard. But that compromise wasn't happening. It was give me everything. In military, I'm not going to give you an inch. And that's not the way we do business, because we don't have the luxury of playing these type of games when lives are on the line. So I think there needed to be a better, more thought out approach to this versus just saying, yes, you can serve, because there's a lot more to it.
So from your experience, and then we're going to hand it over to DJ 4P. Was it a situation where this sect of people, this minority of people, had undue control and influence over the military?
So what I noticed was happening is minorities were trying to out minorities. So you start with a large cohort like females or Black and brown airmen. And we've got the numbers to show if you're a Black airman, you were 1.6 more likely to be have NGP for the exact same crime as a white.
NGP, what's that? Non-judicial punishment?
NJP, non-judicial punishment, right. NJP.
So basically they're being prosecuted under military law.
Right. 1.6 more times than white male airmen for the exact same crimes. So we know that those numbers are there. So then you have the minority of females. We know that females come into the medical sector in the military like 70 to 30%, but then it's the inverse on their leadership. Going towards the end, the leadership is 70-30% male to female. So we know there were the disparities, but then you had minorities trying to out minority the minority. So now we go even smaller, LGBT. Then we went even smaller, transgender. And so we made it a point to say we got to take care of every single minority, even at the detriment of readiness and the majority of the people who served. And I don't think that was a good balance. We didn't have a balance. We said, let's try to find the smallest percentile minority and address that and make the rest of the military, the 99% of us, suck it up and take it. That wasn't the way to do it.
Now, what would happen if somebody went against this mega minority authority?
So fortunately, and again, this is my narrow perspective. I can't speak for the entire military, but what I saw was there were enough logical thinkers and leaders that were playing that balance. But you were asking a lot from frontline supervisors who weren't prepared or trained for stuff like this. You were asking a lot for commanders, first sergeant, SCLs, senior enlisted leaders, your chief, your senior. You were asking a lot from them to kind of figure this stuff out with no guidance, no policy direction, no AFI or regulations to back them up. They were just having to figure it out on the fly. And that's that balance I'm talking that the military didn't strike. They said, here, there's a small percentage of people. Everybody needs to make sure you accommodate them. That's not what we're about.
We're going to get to you, DJ 4P. JR, you were recently out the military too. Is Julio making all this stuff up because he hates the gays?
He is 100% correct. They was given a blank check, and they can write anything that they want to. If you say the word gay, you will get in more trouble if you said the N word.
That's not true.
That's facts.
You're telling me that there's more of a repercussion for using the word gay than using the N word? Wow. That is absolutely wild.
I know it because I said the
You said what?
word gay.
What happened to you?
My whole damn career.
You what?
It derailed my whole career.
But you can't just be calling people gay. What happened?
If you want to know the full story, or you don't want to hear the whole story.
My question is, when you did it, was it out of maliceness or viciousness?
Does it
Neither.
matter?
Because people can use the N-word and it doesn't have to be out of maliceness and viciousness.
Again, does
And the
it
reason
matter?
why I did not get to Article 15 is because the guy said he wasn't offended by it and it didn't bother him.
But everybody and their mother that was around the circumstance wanted to crucify you for it.
Yes.
Interesting.
Or even saying the wrong gender, you know, that happened.
There.
That's the one where I was, and I challenged the LGBT community, specifically the transgender community, when I was doing these briefings. I was like, look, if I meet you with respect, if I say yes, ma'am, yes, sir. Look, I was born in Texas. My dad was in the Army. I was born with yes, sirs, and yes, ma'ams. Right. So if I meet you with respect, I expect to be met with respect back. If you look like a woman, I'm gonna say yes, ma'am. And if I don't know any better, I don't need my head cut off or someone to give me some counseling about how I'm not being sensitive to this transgender going through what they're going through. Just give me a polite correction. Oh, I go by this. I'm like, all right, cool. It doesn't bother me to say sir or ma'am, but I didn't like how if I said yes, ma'am, they're like, oh, and make a big deal about it. Whoa, 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 whoa. I gave you respect. I expect it in return. And if you can't do that, this ain't the place for you.
You know, it may be a bridge too far to cross. Just trying to remember how many pronouns were approved by the U.S. military when you got out.
34.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, not pronouns. There were 30, and this wasn't recent. This in 2013, 12, the Air Force had on the docket 34 different genders that they were gonna identify. This was
You gotta be kidding me.
not kidding. I saw it in the
first
book.
sergeant. That's fact. That's facts.
DJ4P, how many pronouns were in your office?
You know what? I'm minding my business. So, I can only speak for my own.
He just called everybody man. Nah, man, I ain't doing that, man. I ain't doing
but
this.
no, it speaks to a bigger issue. What resonated with me, what he was talking about, respect and how the context of how you approach someone. I think that right there is the underlying, point to really focus on, because at the end of the day, where do we stop? Where do we draw the line? Let's say on this podcast, I now tell everybody, you got to call me king or else you're a bigot. You know what I mean? Like somebody come into the military, to JR's point, somebody comes in the military and start making up their own rules and dictating to the military how things should be. Like that's
crazy?
not how it works. That's not how it works. I want to speak to a point earlier though. This is what I would challenge everybody to look at, because you know me, Paige, I'm about solutions. I'm not about, just speaking on the problem like, hey, fire. Let's figure out we can get some water. If we got a situation or some type of program, some type of initiative started where we can say, okay, hey, you cannot serve in certain parts of the military if you are currently transitioning. But once you fully transition and you go through some form of therapy, you go through some form of medical, physical, evaluation to prove that you are completely transitioned, would it be okay for people that are considered transgender to serve at that point? Because at that point, it's no longer a problem of what your distraction would be. Or am I looking at the wrong way? And I'm looking more so to JR, because he spoke of having personal experience in that area.
Well, I think it's a waste of resources. Why are we taking on? It's like saying we want to have people with Down syndrome in the military, and I'm not comparing anyone who's
That's what you just
homosexual or transgender to Down syndrome, but it's people who have a hard time meeting the basic standards because of, if you're transitioning, you're having a hard time meeting the physical, psychological
if
standard.
you're completely done with the transition, is what I'm saying. Your transition is done. You've been medically
Is it ever
cleared.
really done?
Again,
You got to continue to take those medications, as far as I know.
So, okay, do we say there's 0 point if you choose to, or if your path is?
And let me be a little extreme with you, DJ 4P. If a man has a sex change operation and they castrate themselves, they have to go through a long period of time of self-dilation. Just let your imagination wander here, of their new sexual organ. Right? That's a daily thing they have to do. Now, maybe you can do all that before PT and, after the commander's call and but to me, it seems like that alone is just something that's a little bit, it's too much extra baggage. The military tells you how many bags you need to take to wherever you got to go. You got your A bag, you got your C bag, wherever you're going, the military tells you. You can bring more bags if you want to. But bringing in that extra, baggage, it's not going to be something that's conducive to the mission. And the mission is to kill people and break things, not for someone to get a sex change operation or to dilate their. You know what I'm trying to say.
So the idea is more about whether or not the military or DOD is paying for this, or is it more about?
That's a whole nother topic we haven't even got into.
Yeah, so that's what I'm wondering. Like, is it more about whether or not the funds are being, dealt out from DOD or from the military, or is it more about whether a person that is transgender, whether they're currently going through transition or they've already transitioned, whether or not they can actually serve? Because to me, the military and DOD spends an astronomical amount of money on dumb shit. And I know this from my past experience in the military, to the extreme of, working on planes and understanding they, will go out and find parts for different aircraft that are like, we need a couple of bolts and it's like a couple $1,000s a pop. Like, you know what I mean? So we already wasting money. So I'm not saying that I agree with wasting any more money, but I'm saying, is it about the funds or is it about whether or not that person can
It's about both. Every bean and bullet should go towards the warfighting effort.
So that person can serve. Let's say you got Captain Flag, to Suicide Squad version, Captain Flag, and he's already done combat missions as a guy, and then he comes back from his latest deployment and he says, you know what? I'm feeling like a female right now. I want to get transition. But he's got, Silver Star, Purple Heart, all these different things. He's proven that he can serve, but now he wants to serve as a female. Do we keep him in the military? Him soon to be her? Do we keep that?
I don't think we do. I don't think it's the most effective thing, because as a female, he's not going to be able to be doing the same things he did as a male. You're not even allowed to be in direct combat operations. So I don't think that it's a 1-for-1 swap. I honestly don't think that. I think that it's a distraction. I don't think that it helps the tip of the spear become sharper. I think it's something extra, and we don't need extra in the military. We have enough extra as it is. Just look at what people do to get promoted, especially in the enlisted corps. Some of the extra stuff they do on off-duty time and on-duty time. We have a comment from Jayhawk that says, just because a physical transformation takes place doesn't mean their mental health issues are cured.
Right.
Interesting. So, and let's go back to the question here. Are these policies, so-called woke policies, are they actually against the DOD instructions? And one specifically is, we saw in our previous iteration of our flyer, you have some people in the United States military that are marching and they had gay flags. Now, I went through basic training and I got beat over the head with the policies from 362903 and all this other stuff. Or is it 26? I don't know. And we're not allowed to have any partisan or political affiliations. But for some reason, the homosexual community in the military They're allowed to wave their flag. They're allowed to do things that other people in the military can't do. Are these policies clashing with the strict military rules that we depend on to keep people in line?
It's 100% totally against it. Because like the picture you sent me, you had the honor guard, and then you had somebody in the back with the gay flag marching. That shouldn't happen at all.
Yeah, the picture you're talking about, I believe, was a color guard, a flag detail, which you have the U.S. flag, which is always of prominence, and you may have had a state flag, and of course maybe a unit flag or something, maybe a branch of service flag, and behind it, and with the person carrying it, like he was a part of the color guard, but I think he had on civilian clothes or something, was a gay pride flag. Now, I was in the color guard, and I just can't imagine the detail commander saying, "Yeah, you just fall in right behind us." I can't see that.
Well,
What am I missing?
Let's be careful with that picture, because that airman might have been LGBT, and so what's more important to me is our fallen brother and sister at arms versus any. If that's what they wanted, I was in honor guard before. We did some weird stuff because we put the member ahead of. Now, we didn't break any rules with 2903, but we did. There were accommodations we made.
What kind of accommodations did y'all make?
So we did one where there was a Navy guy, and we put these rubber booties on and took his casket into a lake, and then it was floating, and we allowed it to float in the lake, because that's what they wanted to do. This was the Navy guy. It was a joint service honor guard at Arlington in Texas.
Did you guys put like a family crest flag over his casket before you did that, or a gay flag over it?
No. So that's what I'm saying.
That's what we're talking about. Like somebody,
yeah. In the picture, it could have been somebody just holding it in the background.
No.
I would. I didn't see it. So I apologize.
I'll find it.
Yeah. But I think, to what you're saying, though, when we like women in combat, does everybody here believe women should serve in combat roles, operator roles on the front lines?
No,
I don't believe they should.
Okay.
Not at all.
Now we understand that there's women who can beat me up, like if you're physically capable to meet the same standards as men. All that said, we still, and I agree, it's not about being fair, because the military doesn't have to be fair. We don't let you in if you can't be on honor guard if you're not 5'7" or taller. Is that fair? If you really wanted to be in the honor guard, if you're 5'5", we don't care. We're not about being fair. We're about being lethally ready to do what we got to do. So to the point I think we're talking about here, when you introduce LGBTQ in combat roles, now I'm talking combat roles only, there's confusion where there doesn't need to be confusion. And it's not fair. If you're qualified to serve, it's not fair to you, but it doesn't matter, because I don't need confusion when we're trying to take that hill. I don't need confusion when we're trying to hurry up and put some bags up because we got incoming. I need to be clear on what the mission is and not take into account, do I call you sir or ma'am? So I think what happens is we say, well, it's not fair to them. Well, that's okay, because we don't owe you that. We don't owe you fairness. We owe you dignity, respect, and clear policy and direction. And so even a person who's pretty liberal, I don't feel the need. Yeah, that's not right. Yeah. So absolutely. Get away from the color guard. That's not right.
Well, you're being too judgmental. Look, the guy is. Can you still see that?
Yeah.
That might have been the Hawaiian flag, man. Why are you judging, Punch?
Yeah. Do they have shorts on?
That's not the Hawaiian flag.
Now he's not in the formation.
Oh, you know what? I didn't even see the I didn't even see the POW MIA flag and the other flag next to the gay flag.
Yeah.
And look at the socks and the Crocs.
Yeah. Do they have shorts on, or is that just me?
That's shorts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you know what? The thing that comes to mind is this must be ROTC.
Well, Punch, real quick, I had a comment.
This is wild.
Some people sent me comments. They said they allowed this stuff in the military because they're trying to normalize this behavior, just like everything else in this clown world.
Well, the military has always been an institution where people have been able to to force social change. And sometimes it's good. Usually it's good. Like the Air Force was the first to integrate Black people, and that was a good thing. But it was based off the content of their character, not off the color of their skin, not off of physical attributes. The thing that concerns me with all this stuff is it's not based off the content of a person's character. It's just off of physical attributes and how a person decides who they want to be or feel like today. And to me, that's a very difficult foundation to lay anything on. But as I'm looking at this picture closer, he's standing next to an army guy or a coastie or something. The gay flag guy. He's got a halyard on. What do you call those things? That he's holding. He's got the whole. Somebody gave him this and told him to march in here.
Yeah. Hey, is that a Space Force flag that we see there?
Oh, bro.
What do you mean by that?
Flag
And see, for people who are civilians are looking at this like, what's wrong? It's just there are federal and there are also very strict regulations on how you handle the U.S. flag. And if this were a ROTC detail, blame ignorance. If this were like a military academy, a private academy, they know better too. They wouldn't do it. But for this to be happening, it looks like there's a flag higher than the U.S. flag, but don't get me started. But nonetheless, what's going on here? This is against regulations to include this kind of stuff in a color guard formation. And see, this goes back to the question that we had here. Are these policies clashing with strict military rules? And I think this is why there's this low-level sense of resentment that happens with military members, whether active or non-active. These folks seem like they're getting away with a lot of stuff that we can't get away with. Black people can't be putting up the Marcus Garvey flag or a flag of Wakanda. We may be able to in a years. I don't know, but that stuff is against the law. And I think it's very confusing for folks who are in the military to see regulations and things like this just totally disregarded. Am I missing something, DJ 4P?
No, you spot on. Like at the end of the day, we can talk for days about our own subjective beliefs and opinions about whatever. But at the end of the day, the reason why you have a uniform on is to make everybody look the same when you go to battle. That's the reason why you wear a uniform. It's a uniform look. And I think, again, I'm more focused on, just like JR said, I'm more focused on readiness as far as going down range, putting bullets down range and taking, land and being able to inflict our will. And I think a big problem that comes with that as well is like, if we're not bringing our best to the game, the other side is, yeah, do that. Let people that are physically, inferior serve on the front line, because we're going to bring our best. I would say we're probably a couple of, being nice, we can accommodate, certain communities. We're a couple of those away from somebody overseas saying, you know what, this is our chance to try America. They finally weak enough where we can go ahead and try them.
They already saying and doing that, bro.
You know what I mean?
They already saying that. Have you seen those Air Force with those the U.S. military recruitment videos versus the Chinese videos? Have you seen those?
I've seen them a little bit.
And ours is talking about a girl or something that moved away from home and she's sad. Where you got the Chinese folks, they damn near look like they about to kill somebody.
Yeah. It's a girl talking about she had to leave her home with her two moms. And the whole recruitment video was so self-centered. This is what I'm bringing to the military, and what the military is. I didn't grow up in that kind of a military. It was a service before self institution. But maybe you guys are jumping the gun a little bit too much. Maybe there is some good that we can get out of this. Before we get to this next video, let's take a look at what Jay Hawk says. There are enough soup sandwiches, quote unquote, within the ranks of 100% capable men. We don't need any other interference. Very interesting. All right. Let's take a look at this next video here, guys.
Volume's off. Punch.
Can't hear anything.
Yeah, Punch. The volume's off.
Uh-oh. You guys can't hear this?
I don't need to hear the comment on it.
Let me fire it back again. Let me get the volume fixed. You guys talk amongst yourselves as I fix this.
I can't
technical issue.
I can't be seen in my Black Panther t-shirt and my boots and everything off duty.
Not
I come
even
to
off
work
duty.
I come to work the next day, I'm in trouble.
Mm.
Yeah, I can't even put my Eagles. I couldn't put my Eagles jersey on back then. You know what I mean?
You shouldn't put it on now.
Nah, I was just playing, but I get what you're saying though. Hey, so anyway, while he's fixing that, who you guys got next week?
Come on, man. Stop playing.
I'm not watching it, man.
You're not watching it.
But if
Here
I
we
had
go.
if I had to go for somebody, I would go for your Eagles because I dislike the Chiefs so that
That's the
much.
worst thing you should have said. That's gonna be a 10 in the conversation. Can y'all hear this?
U.S. Navy is approaching
Can y'all hear that? All
Yeah.
right.
a drag queen influencer to help persuade new recruits into joining the military. Yeoman second class Joshua Kelly, who goes by Harpy Daniels, announced back in November that he was the Navy's new digital ambassador. Their attempts to increase interest among young people amongst a historic recruitment crisis. A survey from the Ronald Reagan Institute found that only 13% of 18 to 29-year-olds are highly willing to join the military.
Thoughts? Maybe we got it wrong. Maybe we need more drag queens.
I think this is an example where, like, if this person is showing up to work and doing their job, and then on their off time, this is what they're getting into, I don't think that's my business. You know, as long as they're not talking, you can't talk bad about your leaders. You can't, got to be within regs with uniform policy and 2903, stuff like that. But as to me, if you doing this stuff on your off time and you separate it from the military, now if the military say, hey, be our ambassador, that I have a problem with. But if you doing this on your off time, I think it's like I'm gonna mind my own business on that, because that's your off time. You know, what does that, how does that correlate to readiness, if we're supposed to be minding our own business?
Somebody in leadership said we need to find someone amongst our ranks that relates to all the troops that's a drag queen. And that's going to be our digital representative. Somebody in very high places thought about this in
That's a
the
problem.
United States Navy.
That's a problem.
It's the Navy, man. Come on.
Yeah.
We can't say that no more.
I got a question for you, Punch. That'll simplify all of that. And this is just to keep it all the way realistic. Let's break it down basic. Would you pick that dude to play football with you?
He got some broad shoulders.
I'm just saying. The fact that we have
Punch doesn't play football.
We have universities out here with more stringent standards when it comes to, you can't, that guy wouldn't be able to just show up and become a high school football player or college football player, let alone a pro football player. We should have way higher standards as far as serving in the military than anything else.
It used to be like that. Like you couldn't.
It used to be like that.
Yeah, you couldn't have something lascivious in your off life, or you would get in trouble.
But they spoke on it. They spoke on the point again, retention, and that's the biggest problem right now.
And that goes back to what Julio was saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying, do we need to lower our standards to, the bottom of the barrel, just to recruit a few people who are overweight and don't know if they're male or females, just so we can fill the ranks with a bunch of low value, troops that are going to get out anyway after they get a sex? Do we need to do that to be an effective fighting force? Or do we keep the standards high and maybe change the advertisement campaign? Let's take a look at a few comments here. If you want to ensure America won't sign up for the Navy, This guy is your guarantor. We are so effed. Needless to say, this won't work for the Navy. However, it's telling that they were willing to try this approach. There's a strong push to normalize perversions and distort the minds of children. No wonder they can't recruit people to the military. What a joke. I work as a contractor in the defense circles. Every day, these people tell me how they are discouraging their friends or family from continuing in their military footsteps. It's like Alice in Wonderland. Total insanity overcoming our society. Better learn Chinese. And guys, I'm not going to lie. I don't recommend people go to the military anymore. I think I stopped doing that a long time ago. And I probably shouldn't be saying this, but this is the reason why. I've had some folks that I knew that went to the military, and the vast majority of them ended up getting like sex changes, or they were doing things.
The vast majority?
Yes. Young people. And I couldn't in good conscience continue to send people to the Navy. Oh, sorry. I couldn't in good conscience keep sending people to the military, because I'm like, they're coming out as different sexes and growing beards and cutting stuff off. And I'm like, what is going on in the military for this to continue to happen? They're not focused on fighting. Anyway, don't get me started.
They're focused on, like 4P said, they're focused on recruiting. The recruiting numbers are laid down low. And just like you said, if people ask me, I'll come to the military, I was like, how long you want to serve? They was like, I want to serve 26 years like you. I was like, no, don't come in. Don't do it. Don't even think about it.
Especially with the way the retirement is set up now.
Yeah.
But don't we think that should be like, I think the people we keep in our circles might be a little more like-minded like us. I think that's the reason why I would tell them to join, because
but the people in our circle ain't in the military circle right now. They got a first sergeant with a gay flag on his desk.
That's what I'm saying. Like I think we have people who may feel more like we do, and are more on the there's a middle ground there to be found, that they're closer to that. But the reality is, again, the numbers are the numbers. Our recruiting numbers are bad. I don't think the solution is dropping the standards. I think the solution is raising the pay. If you raise the pay and pay people more, you could be more selective, because not only I'm going to give you health insurance, a place to stay, and a career with a potential pension or something like that, a semblance of that, I'm also going to give you a bag. And that's been very, we've seen the numbers now. Currently, it's working in cyber. They're giving these guys huge bonuses. We don't want to do that. And we can't lower the standards. We can't say everybody come in, give me 2 or 3 years, 4 years, and then get out, because we're not going to sustain and maintain that lethality that we enjoy right now. So I think the only solution, and there might be more, I'm not the smartest man on the planet by far, but I think the only solution, or a good solution, pay them more. So have that enlisted officer deficit shrink, because we are capable. This enlisted force is the most educated. It's the most innovative that we've ever had, but we're
self-centered and arrogant.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, Julio, I got a question for you. So I got out the military, and one of the reasons that I got out was the pay, right? So, and is this still true today? 'Cause I know I guess you recently got out, that the highest enlisted person gets paid more than the lowest officer.
No, the chief, a chief with 30 years makes about what a captain makes at 9 years. Yeah, which is still a deficit. I'm sorry, a chief and a captain are not equals,
Not at all.
and especially we've the last few decades, we have pushed a lot of jobs that used to be held by officers to enlisted, and pushed those jobs even further down. So what used to be a chief job is now a master sergeant's job. So yeah, that pay deficit is crazy when you think 30 years of experience and going through it, I'm getting paid as this kid who was given the rank as captain. That's not right.
Yeah, because I remember, like, when I was in it, I felt like I was on 12-hour shifts, 5 days a week, And I'm doing the numbers. I'm getting paid about $8 an hour. You know what I mean? It was crazy. And I'm like, man, I could be at McDonald's making this.
Well, I think, and see, the thing is, we're moving away from realizing the elephant in the room. Men are the ones who primarily encompass the military. I think the focus should be on young men.
Yeah.
And it should be less focused on alternative lifestyle people, like we saw with the Navy ad there. And it should be less focused on, I hate to say it, but less focused on women. Okay. You shoot for the widest net.
Yeah.
They need to tell young men, you're going to come to the military and you're going to have discipline, and you're going to see people held to the same standard. The gay guy in your office is going to be held to the same standard as the black guy in office, as the dude from Czechoslovakia, as the person that's from Hawaii. And I don't think that the military is doing a good job of telling people that they are going to have discipline and they're going to have a sense of pecking order and rank. I just don't think that that's something that the military cares about right now. They're trying to turn it into some kind of a social club, it seems. And the Air Force is terrible with this kind of stuff. As soon as we don't have a war to fight, we focus on some of the stupidest things, and they become almost the word of God. So I don't know. We already had that comment, DK. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I wanted to put it back up because that's exactly what you're saying. You know what I mean? It's the same.
Well, we don't.
I got a question for everybody on here. Everybody on here is straight Air Force, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know. Well, we don't want to be the old guys that are looking back at the good old days. But at the same time, I don't think that military regulations should be seen as something that's optional for certain people. Certain people are allowed to have their flag raised, but I can't have, the Ghanaian flag raised if I were Ghanaian, with next to the American flag. I don't like that sense of favoritism. I don't think the military should have that kind of mindset. And I think it's destroying morale, personally.
Well,
I was actually, when I was in, I was asked to take a symbol off of my desk because it offended some people and some people didn't like it.
What was the symbol?
A Mason symbol. I didn't do it though. I didn't take it off. I did.
Now, if this thing had continued to go and President Trump hadn't, threw a grenade in the room, I could see in 2 or 3 years, you could have a Mason symbol on your desk. The other person over here may have their Furby costume that they wear. You know what the Furbies are, right? They dress up as these animal costumes. I don't think they will be able to tell anybody anything, because once you open that slippery slope, everything is possible. But we have to make sure that everybody's on the same level playing field, the same standard, the same, like DJ 4P said, the same sense of uniformity. And we've lost uniformity in the military. It's all about, I'm going there for myself. I'm going there to get sex changes, collagen implants, and freaking hairlines.
Right. You know what, Punch? If you want to go get a sex change, go to prison in California.
Oh, no.
No. I'm serious. I'm serious. You know what I mean? Like we said from the door, when you join the military, service over self. You know what I mean? Like that's what it should be. You should be going into the military to serve your country, to protect your family, you know what I mean, to protect your homeland. Like that's what you're going in there for. If you're going there for anything else, it's a selfish motive. You know what I mean? And I know, we have lost that. A lot of people go in there for college or go in there for this or for that, or for money. But really, a lot of people left their homelands, left more money than they were making. You know what I mean? To go and protect their country. Look at the at the Civil War, at even those in Vietnam, they left where they were they left. They were better where they were, but they went because they believed in a higher cause, a higher cause. You know what I mean? And to me, like that's what the military was about. It wasn't just I'm just going in because I don't have nothing else to do. I'm just going in because I'm going to college. But at one time, the military is about, hey, I'm going in to protect my family. I'm going in to protect my country, and I think we have lost that. So.
Well, a lot of people, like I went in primarily to get out of my hometown and I went in to travel and get an education. But when I got to the military and I started to see the oath that I had to take, I'm like, okay, these things are priorities for me, but they're not priorities for Uncle Sam. I have to change my priorities, right? The whole service before self thing. I couldn't come in there and try to interject my agenda of getting an education or traveling above what the government wanted. And I'm not saying that our transgender brothers and sisters in arms aren't doing that, but it seems like by default that's what happens, because if this person isn't deployable because their hair plugs are bleeding, whatever is going on in this video.
Yeah, no, but also, Punch, if we have to have a conversation about it, it's already a problem. You know what I mean? Like for real, to be honest, I think a lot of you guys said this. If if we're going through if they're going through whatever and it doesn't affect their readiness, or it doesn't affect the unit, if it's their personal time, their personal business, okay, forget it. I'm down to go to war with anybody who's willing to go to war. You know what I mean? But if you're not willing to go to war, or you can't go to war because of your personal issues, then that's when it becomes a problem. So, like, I don't have, whether if you're homosexual, LGBTQ, HI, all of those, whatever you are. But if you're ready to go to war, let's go to war. I'm with you. If you're my brother or my sister or my trans sister brother on my side, what I mean, let's go to war. And if you're capable, you're willing, let's go do it. But the fact that we got to have a conversation about it is because, and I'm not saying it's not all of them, but it's some of them who is just using the system. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And it's a little bit off the subject. I was reading an article about the one guy. I guess he transitioned as a female. Didn't really transition, but was in it was in a female jail, ended up raping. Well, all sex in jail is rape. So whether he raped her or not, but anyways, he ended up getting like six females pregnant. You know what I mean? Because
I think
he's
like
a
2 or
trans.
3. Yeah.
Oh, well, whatever. That's all we know. We don't know how many they covered up. But anyways, the fact is that what I'm saying is that it became a problem. You know what I mean? It became a problem because, you know what I'm saying.
Hey, DK, with respect to what you just said, about the prison thing, I think the difference is, prison, that's its own entity. Like,
Yeah.
I keep circling the block back to JR's point in the beginning. It's about readiness for me, because the biggest problem is, like I said, I'm concerned. I have kids. I think everybody in this panel got kids, correct? So
Yeah.
a big thing as a parent is leaving, your kid's world better than you had it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all served in the military. I would like to think we all served honorably. I know for a fact that we all didn't deploy the same. I'm not looking at anybody particular, but conversation for another time.
Hey, Julio, I'm with you. They just jerked me. I just end up staying at my station over and over again. They like where I was, so I'm with you, Julio.
My question would be to everybody is like, what is the solution specifically to the topic of discussion of this podcast? Like, prison is, its own entity, but as far as what do we do from this point? Like, if they were to come to us and say, hey, what do we do to fix it?
My solution,
if there's something that needs to be fixed.
My solution is that you shouldn't be transitioning in the United States military. I think it goes contrary to readiness. I think it goes, and I also believe that the United States military should not be coupled to a political or ideological movement. Regulations clearly state that we are supposed to be apolitical. We should not have gay flags flying next to or in proximity to the United States flag. We should not have members of the United States military participating in gay pride parades in uniform or even PT gear. I've seen that, physical training gear. We need to be a apolitical organization, because we may look back in history and not agree with that stuff. And then we may say to ourselves, why was the military doing all this? Right? So it also has a negative impact on morale, because again, as an African American, I don't get to see my idea of a nationalistic flag or an idealistic flag raised next to the US flag. Why do they get to do that? Right? I don't get to have the same kind of privileges that's also afforded and get. It's just not the same. That's why we need to just keep it uniform, as you said before, DJ 4P. We need to keep it uniform for everybody. That's what we call it, uniformity. As we begin to sunset the show, what are you guys' thoughts?
Now, real quick,
I say, go ahead, DJ, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, DJ 4P. To answer your question for me, if it's an issue, you need to be out. You know what I mean? That's just the bottom line. If you got a weight issue, you're out. You got mental issues, no matter how bad you want to serve, you're out. So if whatever you have going on, if it's an issue, then you're out. That's how the military has always been. It's been that to people have served, countless times, overseas, and the psychiatrist said, hey, you're not really fit to go back over anymore. You know what I mean? And now you're out. So if that's the case with, someone who is, normal or whatever, they go over there and the psychiatrist says, hey, you have a mental issue. We don't think you can serve anymore, then you're out. So if you have an issue, with this transgender and you have to do this or do that, if it becomes an issue, then you just need to be out. And I think it's just play it fair across the board. If you're fat, if you got mental issues, if you're going through transgender and it becomes an issue, then you need to be out. That's how they treat everybody else. So
I say the way to fix it, 4P, bring back basic training how it used to be in 1997. I came through the Army. The same person I left when I left Mulberry Street and I came back 8 weeks later, I wasn't the same person. They're going to break your ass the first 2 weeks. And at that first 2 weeks, they give you a chance to leave. 15 people left because they couldn't hack it. I say bring it back. All the weak people that ain't there for the right reasons, they ain't going to make it. They're going to get out. Before they can get out of basic training.
Hey, the Air Force. But real quick, the Air Force doesn't break people. Air Force doesn't break people. It's just,
and look at the Air Force now. We talking about now.
Regardless of that, you can go. I'm sorry, but regardless of that, the Air Force is still the greatest and most powerful military force in the world. So
in the universe.
Yes. Thank you.
So we take JR, we take that same idea of bringing back, and contrary to what these clowns are saying, that the Air Force basic training was pretty stringent. It was not probably as difficult as the Army, but I think it was paired towards the Army's mission versus the Air Force mission is support, aircraft. That's our mission versus the Army. You're gonna be handed a gun and say, go run and take that hill. Most of the people in the Air Force are not going to have that experience. So there's no point in wasting time and energy in, building people up for that type of lifestyle when they're not going to do it. However, my follow-up question to you, JR, specifically, if we did that, and let's say somebody who is a part of the lifestyle, alphabet community, with all respect, no disrespect to that community, but, and they pass old school, because you said, you came 97, I went through in 98. We take it back to old school basic training. They pass with flying colors. Then what?
They know the mission now. They know the objective now. They still not the same Sam that left the block. They are Airman Sam now, or PFC Sam now. They're not the same person that left the block. They might be in the alphabet soup community, but you know the job. You know what you're here for.
Well,
And changing your hair color to blonde ain't one of them.
Nah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
DJ 4P, question for you though. You said so Air Force 98. What flight were you in?
I was in 321st Squadron, Flight 143.
So was I.
And you just tested my memory with that one.
Yeah, that's crazy. No, I was in 321 too.
Yeah.
Martinez, and what was the white guy's name?
I
went in February. I came in February.
I came in December of '98. So I had Evans and what the hell was the other boy name? I can't remember the other dude name because that was like 30-something years ago. But yeah,
I missed by a couple months. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Nice.
These guys were in the Civil Air Patrol. Don't let them lie to y'all.
Punch served in the Salvation Army.
if I can, I think we just need to have a real I think we've been so traumatized, and I don't want to use that word loosely, but with this, and I'm a liberal guy, with this agenda that I think we can't even say what I think a good solution might be to consider is if you're transgender, understand your birth, your gender at birth is what we're going to treat you like for the rest of your career. If you were born with male parts, you will always be a male in the eyes of the military. And it's not about, again, being fair. It's about we have a mission to do, and we can't have confusion on the battleground, on the battlefield. So does it sound fair? Does it sound liberal for me to say that? No, but it's not. You made a good point. It's not about ideology. It's not about the flavor of the month. It's not about making a point and experimenting when lives are on the line. It's about, are you ready to fight? And you're going to fight our way, not your way. You're going to become part of us. You're going to assimilate to what we do, because it's been tried and proven for over 200 years. And we're not going to start changing things up because we want you to feel you can be a part of this. You need to be a part of what we're doing. And we're going to keep everybody's standards the same. We're not going to change it up for anybody. We're not going to give you time off. You want to do all that on your own. We will create a safe, free country for you to do that. All we ask is either you say thank you or say nothing. But I think we got to go back to basics. It's the military, and we've gotten away from that, and we've done it at the expense of readiness and our lethality. And if you don't think near peer competition is looking at that and saying they're finding cracks in the armor, they absolutely are. And I don't mind saying this as a liberal guy because it's the right thing to do. It's not about what feels good. It's about what's the right thing to do given what we've been charged to do. Chaos and the judicious application of chaos and destruction anywhere on the planet, to include space now. We can't have confusion with that.
That boy is good.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Look at this guy, Space Force over here. Well, guys, we're gonna start sunsetting the show real quick. But this is a very important topic, and I don't think that a lot of civilians have heard it from military people's perspective, and we've all lived it. You know, the combined time that we have been in the military here is probably a couple, maybe 2 centuries. You know, so we really have to take in consideration that we have a voice in this matter, and what we say has an impact on people. And DJ 4P is right on. What do we do with this information? Well, I think most of us are in agreement that the military has to take precedence over our own personal feelings and our personal idea. 30-some genders in the Air Force? You can't maintain a fighting force like that. Pending your approval, DK, we can pray it out, man. Sounds good. Father, we thank you for just showing us different perspectives of the truth. And even though we may come from different backgrounds and we have different ideas of how the world should work, we all come to an agreement that you have created us male and female. And Father, we don't want it to make it seem like we're coming down hard on any kind of sexual orientation or people who may be having difficulties understanding who they are. But at the end of the day, Lord, we pray that you bless our military, you bless our leaders to make the proper decisions, not be too heavy-handed, but also not keep the scalpel too far from those things that need to be cut off. Help us to be pruned properly, not only in the government, but also in our personal lives. Continue to show and direct us in the way we should go and to have the proper sensitivities when dealing with these topics. We pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, guys. Appreciate you hanging out. It's been grand.